just been playing the new Diablo 3 from Blizzard Entertainment. The greatest game ever made. By the way, Yozo, you've been asking me to make a video about Diablo 3. Let me just show you something over here. So many emails. Let me move this where I can see. Diablo 3 video. D3, D3, D3. Oh my fucking god, 3. Oh shit. Oh my god, Diablo 3. This is just like the first page. I got like 3 pages of this crap. Diablo 3, blah 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 blah, Diablo 3, Diablo 3, Diablo 3, Diablo 3 is here, Diablo 3 announcement, blah blah blah. So yeah, you guys can stop messaging me. I get the point. I've been busy. I had like 3 days of working all weekend. Plus, I'm not allowed to talk about Diablo 3, and technically until July 1st, but I think it's, what is it, June 30th now? Was it 31 days in June? I think it's close enough. I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys the scoop of what I know. First thing you probably want to know is, how the hell am I playing Diablo 3? It's not out yet. There's no beta. Technically there is in certain situations, which brings me to the bad news. As a lot of you know, I made a video about me dying in August of this year. I thought I was going to die before I hit 31, basically, and I thought it was going to be in August. A lot of people are confused, think I'm going to kill myself in August, but it's not exactly what I said. I said I thought I was going to die in August. As it turns out, I went to the doctor because of those rings in my eyes, and I've been diagnosed with occipital lobe carcinoma, which is like, it's not a tumor, a type of brain cancer, but it's basically a lesion on this part of your brain behind your eye sockets, and it's like probably what was causing me to have all these weird dreams and see these rings, and I don't know what all it was causing, but anyway, when you get cancer, I had this idea. I'm like, yes, I'm going to pull an E-Phoenix. I'm calling the Make-A-Wish Foundation, which I did. And Midget already called him once, and Prank called him, so they put me in touch with Blizzard, and they let me in on the fact that Diablo 3 was being made, and it was mostly done. It's actually coming out probably sooner than you think. They told me that, and that made me pull a Nightwolf after I pulled the E-Phoenix. You know what that means. So they sent me a copy of this early beta they had going around that they were going to take to like E3 and stuff. And it's only like 3 classes on it right now. It's like a Barbarian, Witch Doctor, and a Knight class, which I call the Paladin class, but I'm not allowed to show you that, but pretty fucking sweet. Then something crazy happened. One of the guys from Blizzard, we were on this Skype teleconference talking to him. He also worked on WoW, this guy. He recognized me from my YouTube videos. And he was like, that's that guy I was telling you about. That's the guy who makes all those videos. And he talked to Chris Metzen about bringing me in like a content creator on Diablo 3 because he knew I was a big fan, like a huge fan of Diablo, and he asked me if I wanted to talk about some ideas for Diablo 3, and I was like, hell yeah, I want to talk about some ideas. So they showed me basically the gameplay video you've already seen, everybody that's been watching, like the Necropolis undead dungeon type situation. And I was like, you see those walkways in the background, like, can you get down to those? Like, say you're playing with somebody in your party and he's not up to where you're at yet, and he's down below there. Would you see him down below there fighting? And they were like, nope, that's a good idea. We'll make it like that. It's not hard to take a 2D dungeon and just layer them on top of each other. Kind of saves space, actually, where you can like climb down ladders and barbarians can leap down. I said it'd kind of be like Arcane Sanctuary in Diablo 2, but a little bit more 3D, you know, it's more stacked on top. So then I saw the Barbarian, and I was like, well, can you play as like a male or female character, like in WoW? And they were like, no, in Diablo we've kind of always gone like male or female depending on the class, and it kind of balances out. Like, there's actually a lot of female classes in Diablo 2, Sorceress, Amazon, Assassin, which is kind of unusual for a game. And I was like, well, there's a lot of girl gamers I've talked to that play WoW, and they'd probably want to be like a Barbarian or something and be female. And they were like, well, we can't really do that because all the rogues and the Amazons, they're like all female clans that are archers, you know, and it's kind of been like the thing for them. They said it wouldn't fit in with the continuity, and I was like, well, okay, so you got Amazons, they could summon Valkyries, which is kind of like a Viking type thing, right? So say there's a clan of barbarians, because you know Amazons have to have babies somehow. They can't just keep making Amazons without any men. So there's this clan of barbarians that goes off in this ship, and they meet up with these Amazons on this island or something, you know, and they make like baby Amazons or whatever. But you can make it like a Viking class. These are the Vikings that are kind of intermixed, that are not Amazon or not barbarian, or kind of in between. So you could say they're like the descendants of those 3 guys on Ariat Summit, Mount Ariat or whatever, those 3 ancients, you know, the ancients? They're like descendants of those guys, and they're good with axes and spears, but they can't use like swords and stuff like that. Kind of like hunters are in WoW. And they're really good with bows and stuff, but they can only use like axes and spears like a Valkyrie would use, or a Viking. Probably I was thinking of Pirates, Vikings, and Knights when I came up with this. And they were like, wow, did you just think all that up right now? And I was like, yeah. So they just incorporated the male-female thing, because that was really the only thing holding them back was the Amazon and rogues and stuff. So I was watching some more, and I was like, well, what's the story here anyway? Like, I always thought maybe if they made Diablo 3, it would be a prequel, and you go back in time, like when the Soul Stones were first forged, and it included a lot of heavenly, like, angelic figures that are trying to stop them from establishing a foothold in hell after they kicked out the angels from hell. You know, God kicked out the angels, the fallen, and they're trying to stop them from making hell, because why would God give Lucifer hell and all this stuff? So it'd be like the Star Wars prequel, where you know you're going to lose in the end. It's already predestined out because you've already played Diablo 2, and that's in the future, so you know what's going to happen eventually. But you do something in the past that allows the future people to do what they did. Like maybe you figure out how the Herodic Cube was made, or maybe you do something that ends up leaving Tyrael on Earth as the guardian angel of Earth or whatever. So they said the story is going to be 20 years after Diablo 2, when the 3 primevals are all like dead because you killed them in Diablo 2, so hell gets overrun by demons and there's too many of them, overpopulating, because there's nobody to keep them in check anymore, which made me think maybe this has got something to do with Iraq War and a Saddam Hussein type reference, because everything nowadays since 2001, books and movies and everything, always something has to tie in with Iraq, sort of. It's kind of weird. So apparently, like, Diablo and Meph and Baal all like would eat demons, kind of like cannibalizing them and keeping them in check, and like apparently they ate a whole lot of them because it kept them from overpopulating. So they wouldn't let me record any of this stuff, and I asked them if I could tell people about it, and they were like, yeah, go ahead, nobody's going to believe you anyway. But they made me sign this thing where I couldn't tell anybody till July 1st, or until the gameplay video came out and it was announced, which has already been announced. Hopefully this is okay to be telling all of you this, because now I'm going to get into some fucking good shit. Can't show you a lot of video from it, but if you remember in Act 5, there were all these siege weapons and generals and stuff that were attacking Harrogath, right? And before you fought Baal, there were Baal's minions, which were like his personal bodyguard. But apparently he also had these generals, which were like his servants, whatever. They were conducting this war, and they were getting ready to lay siege to heaven. That was going on back in Diablo 2, but you put a stop to it before you even found out what was going on, really. And Harrogath was just like the summit of the world, like the giant mountain of the world, kind of like the Tower of Babel or something, you know, like it's closest you can get to heaven. And the Pandemonium Fortress in Act 4, that was more like what heaven is like. It's not like a bunch of clouds and lovey-dovey bullshit. It's just like really clean and pristine and angelic looking. But the Pandemonium Fortress was like an outpost of heaven that was guarding over hell. That wasn't anywhere near heaven. It was like kind of an earth, but like underneath the reality or something. But these generals, when you killed Baal, they didn't know Baal was dead, so they just kept on with their assault. And they're still out there running around 20 years later. So they defeated Harrogath, and they went on to assault heaven. That's been going on for like 20 years. They've been doing pretty good at it. Heaven is kind of starting to wear down and starting to like be destroyed. And that's where your player comes in, because heaven needs your help. So what you do in the game, you have to defeat Baal's generals, which are like Uriel, Belial, some guy starts with a Z. It's like Zechariah, Zoroastriel, or something like that. I can't remember his name. There's a guy like Hezekiah, I think is what it is, or something like, it starts with an H. And the first one I've killed already, his name is Andros, which is like the Lord of Vampires. And he's like, he drops leech stuff. He's really good for, I guess, grinding for leech items. I mean, that's what I got off of him for the first time. And he's like a vampire, so it makes sense. He's pretty cool because, well, like some of the bosses are fallen angels, and some of them are just like other kind of immortal monsters that are on Earth to like spread evil. Like, I don't guess you could call them demons. I guess, I don't know, maybe, I don't know what the other bosses are. Maybe there's like a mummy and a wolf man, or a werewolf, whatever, but it's like he has his own castle, so it was probably there before hell erupted or whatever. He probably didn't came out of hell. He probably just like some other kind of monsters that existed outside of the demonic realm or whatever, and it spreads hatred and evil. Which, like the vampires kill people in town. People think somebody's a murderer going around and killing everybody. Makes everybody think it's okay to murder people, and it leads to more people murdering, which ends up with more souls being tortured in hell, which ends up with them being more minions. So it's like they work for hell indirectly. So it's all kind of cool how they spread evil like that. And when you see souls chained up in hell, it's just like Diablo 2. It's pretty cool. Like they're all alive and struggling to get out, but then you beat them over the head and knock them out. But it's like it could be your grandpa or somebody like that did something evil, stole from somebody, and you just knocked your grandpa out in hell or something. He was really hard to kill, but I barely got him done because I was by myself. But I figured out this trick. There's all these like wine casks, like wooden barrels laying around of wine. If you break those, you know, because everything's destructible, leaves these pools of wine on the ground. There's these big candelabra type candle holders everywhere. You knock those over, it sets that on fire, and if you do it just right and you time it right, he gets in the middle of it, Makes a big flame shoot up and does pretty good damage. But he's got like this blood mist attack, which is kind of like poison cloud, but it's not poison, it's blood. And it just sucks the life out of you and it heals him, so you really got to avoid that. Especially when you're at the end of the fight and you're about to kill him and he's bleeding and stuff starts healing him up. And it's weird because when you do the fire trick, like, you can't do it twice because the AI is really good and he kind of figures out what you're doing. Unless you die and you come back, it's like a new fight. He can also turn into a big flock of bats, and he'll teleport around as bats. He can't attack while he's bats, but he teleports. Or he can turn into one big bat, and it's just like the bat boss in Zul'Gurub. He has like a AoE silence that keeps you from using your special attacks or spells if you're a mage, I guess. It's pretty badass.